Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our APA draft analysis number 1. Now, I know that's a little weird, but we'll get into it. If you guys are coming from the draft stream that I just hosted over on my Twitch with John Jr., hello, welcome back, I suppose. If you haven't subbed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. Obviously, all of our APA videos will be going up here each week, as well as plenty other draft content. So if you guys enjoy that and want to help me get to 600 subs, I'd really appreciate it. At least at the time I'm recording this, I'm still just below 600. So I'd appreciate it a ton. And if you guys enjoyed today's draft analysis, be sure to hit that like button. Tell a friend how cool it was. Share the video, all that good stuff. And yeah, so first draft analysis of at least 3, hopefully maybe 4. Because this season, APA is going back to what it did a couple seasons ago before I was even in Wi-Fi, in the sense that it's a 3 draft format. So once every 4 weeks, we will be drafting a new team. That is 3 draft analysis for you guys. That is 3 different teams we will be using throughout the season for our APA, run this season, I suppose. I don't know if there's really a better way to say that. And then if we end up making playoffs after the full 12-week season, yeah, we're going back to 12 weeks, which kind of makes me sad, but it's okay. Kind of have to with a format like this. We'll get to pick one of the 3 teams that we like the most, and we can use that for our playoff run. So this time, if you, again, didn't watch the draft stream, we had a pretty bad pick. I believe we were 15th or 14th. I want to say 15th. I think we were right behind. No, we were 14th because it was mid, me, Amel, Kirby, like 13, 14, 15, 16. So we were pretty low down, and at least me personally, my philosophy when it comes to drafting a team, and I apologize if you hear the dogs in the background. My philosophy when it comes to drafting a team, all that good stuff, is get the best thing available on the board round 1, get the thing that pairs with it the best round 2, and then we start filling holes and filling roles and things like that. So round 1, I went with actually the Pokemon I drafted round 1 last APA season when I played on Wi-Fi. How poetic. We have Necrozma here round 1. What can I say, man? I love using this mon, and I don't feel bad about drafting again at all. I used it in that APA season. I also recently used it in the RODL a little bit before BDSP dropped, and I love this Pokemon. It is so ridiculously good, so ridiculously versatile, and plenty of setup options in like Autotomized Meteor Beam or Autotomized Weakness Policy, Calm Mind, Swords Dance, Dragon Dance. So many different options on that setup, and alongside that Prism Armor ability, weakening super effective moves, hitting it is honestly ridiculously clutch in most scenarios, as well as just being a fat, annoying, bulky beast. Getting access to Stealth Rocks, being just annoying, toxic, or knocking things off, and just being a general nuisance. This Pokemon is phenomenal. It also gets Trick Room as well, so we can run with like Trick Room Weakness Policy sets as well if we draft Trick Room abusing Pokemon later on. Necrozma can do that for us. So this Pokemon is a great Pokemon to build a team around, especially if you have a lower end pick in a draft. I definitely recommend you trying out Necro, especially in the Galar Dex format where things are a little bit more limited. This thing is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm super happy with this thing as my round 1 pick. Now, like I said, round 2, I want to grab the thing that's left best on the board to pair with it, and I want to get Hydreigon again, like we had in RODL. However, Kirby took it. He took like Rillaboom Hydra or something like that. His team's crazy, by the way. You definitely go watch his draft analysis. I think his team is like by far one of the best in the league. Absolutely love his draft. But Kirby ended up taking Hydra, so I went with the next best thing on the board I saw in Weavile, who's for some reason floating in this slide. Weavile is phenomenal with Necro, and really bullying those fat psychics that want to kind of come in and check Necro, which is obviously great. And Necro doing the opposite for Weavile, really bullying those, offensive fightings that want to beat down Weavile. We have a great bulky psychic in Necro, which is great. And I forgot to mention Mornings on Necro, but I feel like that's kind of self-explanatory, to be completely honest. But Weavile's an incredibly hard Pokemon to switch into between Knock, Axel, Crash, Shard, Low Kick, running with a Band, running with a crazy SD set if we're feeling a little wild and we feel like we can position a Swords Dance, which is really hard with Weavile. But most of the time we're not going to need it. We're going to click Band or Life Orb hits, and we're going to do damage. We also have Fast Taunt, which is really nice as well. And then that really strong priority and stab Ice Shard from this thing is obviously really phenomenal, and a really solid pairing with Necro. So I'm definitely happy about Weavile. It also gives us that really high 115 plus speed tier. I believe Weavile hits 124, which is again really clutch for this team, securing that speed quick, so we don't have to worry about it later, obviously, which is great. Now going into the next, I want to take a little bit of defensive pressure off Necro. I wanted to get a good solid fairy type, and what better than Sylveon, yet another member of our APA season prior, returning to the squad with Necro. Sylveon's obviously great. It's going to check those offensive fightings. It's going to check those offensive dragons. It's going to be a fat, annoying nuisance. It's going to pass wishes into Necro. It's also going to heal Bell, which is really, really important in case I want to go for a DD sweep or something like that, or I want to get Necro healthy again, and it's gotten burned or toxic or Thunder Wave and stuff like that. I love having a cleric on a team. I think it's incredibly important. We can also dry pass out with Baton Pass, which is great. We get Hyper Voice, obviously, to hit very hard. This thing can be a special breaker with specs, with like Hyper Voice plus Mystical Fire as a tool that got this gem, which is, again, really, really, really solid. I do like this Pokemon a lot. It's a great glue piece, and for the rest of the team, it's going to pass lots of wishes, and again, be an absolute nuisance for opposing teams. Round 4. I grabbed my Bulky Water, and I grabbed my Ground type. Again, I wanted Swampert so bad, but Kurt, right above me, he said, screw you, Owen. He grabbed Pert as per usual, so we ended up with Seismitoad. And I could have, I suppose, grabbed Seismitoad last round, but I think Kurt had a draft that really fit Sylveon super well, so I didn't want to lose that. I figured Seismitoad was a good backup, and have a lot of great backups for Sylveon at that point. So I ended up grabbing Toad here. Toad's a very reliable rocker. We have it in the BBL. Really, really reliable rocker. Water immunity and water absorb, which is great. It gives us a Scald switch in, which I think is a really important thing to have personally. But reliable rocker, gets knockoff, can spread toxics and protect, and just be an overall general nuisance. It can be physical, it can be special. We can run with like a Life Orb, Rain Dance, sweeping sets, which is also really, really cool. And the big thing is Sylveon keeps it healthy. And one of the things that Seismitoad and Pert both really struggle with is staying healthy due to the lack of reliable recovery. Sylveon really helps mitigate that a ton. So I really do like Seismitoad on this team a ton. Gives us a good fire resist, which we don't have up to this point. And again, gives us that Bulky Water and that Ground type. So good roll compression in one Pokemon, and really, really does help us out going forward, which is, again, very, very solid. Next up, we grab Lycanroc-Dusk. I wanted a little bit more oomph. I wanted a little bit more breaking power, and we end up going Lycanroc here. Lycanroc also gives me that 110 speed tier, which is nice. So we have our 124 or 115 plus with 124 Weavile. We have our 110 and Lycanroc now, which is great. It gives another rocker, so 3 rockers. I hate running rocks on Necro, and that's a big thing. Another thing I kind of forgot to mention with Seismitoad and it being a reliable rocker is it reliably gets up rocks, so Necro doesn't have to reliably get up rocks. And I hate wasting move slot on Necro, getting rocks up with it. So Lycanroc's another Pokemon that can potentially get up rocks, especially if it's outspeeding things, not really living hits, but outspeeding things. We also have great priority options in the Cell Rock and Sucker Punch. We can close combat and play rough and Stone Edge through things. This Pokemon doesn't have great switch-ins in conjunction with Tough Claws, plus like a Swords Dance or like a Band or a Life Orb. It really doesn't have great switch-ins, which is, again, obviously very, very nice. This Pokemon hits ridiculously hard if positioned correctly. We just have to find the opportunity to get it in. But the rocks that it does offer this team is amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. Next up, would it be an OGalbina draft if we didn't draft Lickilicky? I didn't like any of the other fat normals on the board, and it takes a little bit of pressure off of Sylveon. It also gives me a really good normal type, and I think this is important when you draft offensive dark types like Weavile or like Greninja and Natdex formats, things like that. I think it's really, really important to have a really sturdy normal type for those ghosts if you have a more offensive dark type. Because Weavile is not switching into Shadow Balls. He basically takes super effective damage from anything that's coming his way besides a Psychic move. So I wanted Lickilicky to, function as that ghost immunity, as well as another secondary Wish Passer, another Heal Belmon, a Weather Check as well, which is really clutch with Cloud9 and it being able to run Cloud9 plus Wish, but also a fat, annoying, bulky normal that isn't taunt fodder. I know it's a bit of a meme between my friends and I about how often I draft Licky, but I really do value its ability to not be taunt fodder immensely, like a ton. So I really think that this thing is absolutely phenomenal. It's by far my favorite bulky normal to draft. Probably one of my favorite Pokemon to draft ever. I really want to get a team logo made with just Licky, because at this point it's like become part of my identity. It's probably my top 5 favorite mons just because of the joke of how much we draft it. But if you've seen the draft analysis here before, if you've seen me use if you've seen me play draft before, you know why I drafted Licky. I love me some licks. Next up, I grabbed Decidueye because if you look at my team, I don't have a ground resist at this point, and that's not good. I also have very little momentum. In fact, it's just Baton Pass Sylveon, which isn't great. It's hard to get Weavile those free switch-ins I really want if I'm not, if I don't have the momentum to get it in, which is obviously not good. And Decidueye obviously offers that and access to U-turn. It can Swords Dance past teams. It can Nasty Plot. It can be banded specs. I've used Decidueye before. I think it's incredibly versatile. It can trap things in with Spirit Shackle or at least force no doubles, which is again really, really, really clutch. And it's a great ground resist, which we do not have up to this point. The move Earthquake demolishes our team right now. And we get another Pokemon later on too that helps that. Takes a little bit of pressure off Decidueye in case there's, you know, a ground type with a coverage move to hit it, like knockoff or something like that. But Decky is definitely very, very solid in kind of patching that ground weakness that we currently do have. So I really do like that option for us. And again, it also gives us defog, which we don't really have any removal up to this point. Now, I'm not a guy who clicks a lot of defog or anything like that, but I still think it's a, you know, pretty clutch nonetheless. Next up, to help again mitigate that ground weakness, give us our steel type, give us more hazards, which again is really, really clutch with monsters like Weavile and Lycanroc and Necrozma to an extent. I end up grabbing Skarmory. Now, if you know me, I'm actually not a big fan of Skarmory. I think it's a bit passive. I think it's a bit one note. But this is probably the best it's ever been in a gen in conjunction with it getting body press. So it isn't as passive in my opinion. But it also, I guess, is a little bit worse because hazards just aren't as good this gen with the addition of heavy boots. I know Kurt loved this thing. I know a lot of my boys love Skarm and think it's a great Pokemon. So maybe I will be converted and it's getting the OGalbina treatment where I try to see if it's really actually terrible or not. So we'll see what I think of it by the end of these 4 weeks, but for now, it gives us those hazards, it gives us that bulky steel, and it also gives us a ground immunity. And one that probably takes on ground types a lot better than Decidueye does, which is, again, incredibly, incredibly clutch. So I'm definitely very excited to use Skarmory this season to get up hazards, to defog hazards away, to potentially iron defense, body press through teams, you know, do a lot of annoying stuff like that, which is, again, obviously great. So that's going to be Skarm. Next up, we end up grabbing Blaziken, another bird, kinda, another defogger, which is funny, I guess funny, I guess it's just weird, I don't know, I don't think of defog when I think of Blaziken, but what Blaziken does for this team is it really helps me break bulky steals, which I don't really do super well up to this point if you look at my team. My way of breaking down fat steals is like Seismitoad, or like predicting with Lycanroc, clicking is easy on the switch in. Like, it's not super great options for us. Now, this obviously isn't speed boost, but it's still a great, great wall breaker at its price point. I really do like the ability to go physical, special, mix. I use this thing in ICP, and I absolutely loved it there, so I'm sure I'll love it here. I've used it in other leagues as well. If you are aggressive with Blaziken and you're not just running Scarf every week, you're running like mixed Life Orb, Overheat, Close Combat, you know, Knockoff, all that fun stuff, Elemental Punches and like Thunder, I guess that's just Thunder Punch and Fire Punch. It's not gonna run Ice Punch and you're not gonna run Fire Punch, you're gonna run Flare Blitz. But regardless, really, really good Pokemon, and more momentum in U-Turn and Baton Pass, but we're probably gonna run U-Turn 99% of the time. So I really do like Blaziken a lot. It also gets priority in backing mode, which is really cool as well. And yeah, it's gonna be Blaziken. Next up, I grabbed my Grounded Poison. I didn't really need the spikes because I had in Skarmory, but it never hurts to have more spikes. We grabbed Garbodor, spikes, T-spikes, Aftermath, Rocky Helmet, all that fun stuff. I've seen Rock Polish Garbodors put in work. I've seen offensive Garbodors put in work before. Weak Armor is also a very clutch ability in a Suicide Lead type scenario, which is great, and it does its job for a 6-point mon very, very well. I do like Garbodor a lot. It gives me another fighting resist, which again, great for Weavile, and Lycanroc, which are two Pokemon that don't appreciate it at all. And my flying type on the team does not, is neutral to fighting. Now, if it's a physical fight, it's probably not getting to a kid regardless, but still, really nice to have. It's important to have that Grounded Poison, especially when I have a team like Necro, Sylveon, Seismitoad, Licky, Decidueye, like all these fat, annoying, bulky mons sitting towards the top. It's good to have at least a T-Spike Absorber or a deterrent to bring T-Spikes on the team, which again, really clutch. And yeah, that is going to be the squad. So let me know what you guys think of the team in the comments below. I think it's pretty good. There's definitely some weaknesses to it. I'm definitely pretty uncomfortable with some of the mons. I think it lacks a little bit of immediate offense sometimes. And really relies on like Weavile, Lycanroc, Blaziken to do the job in that regards. But other than that, I do think the team is very solid. I think we covered Necro pretty well. And yeah, hopefully next draft we end up getting a little bit higher of a pick, and we're able to put in a little bit more work with the squad we draft. But I do like this team. Week 1, we end up playing Shayquaza, so that'll be a good one. I know he has an Urshi single strike, and that's going to be fucking great for this team. I'm sure you could look at my matchup against that thing. So that'll be fun, obviously. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, drop a like if you haven't, sub if you haven't as well, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.